Hey guys, today I'm going to show how I take paintings painted on unstretched linen, unmounted paper, and mount them onto panel. Oftentimes I'm traveling and I prefer to paint on loose linen or, in the past, paper. You can have a stack of almost 20 paintings that's just 1/4 of an inch thick. But once a painting is finally dry and ready to be framed and sold and shipped, what I do then is I like to mount them. There are a few different ways to mount them, and I'm going to be going over the different ways that I've used in the past and the ways that I prefer, and some of the pros and cons, and some of the things that I wouldn't even bother with doing. Eventually, when you have a painting that's already dry and mounted, it looks like this. It's on a rigid board. This was one of my paintings from Europe of 21, the Velasquez statue at the Prado. Now, you can use the same process to take a piece of unstretched linen that you might buy in a roll. I like to buy Claessens 9. I think this was a roll of Claessens 12 or Claessens 13 that I'd recently bought. A bit of a finer weave. If you want to buy premium panels that are oil primed linen, they can be ridiculously expensive. You can use these same methods to make quality linen panels on your own. The first method is a PVA method, which is an archival PVA. This is Line Co, and this is the more affordable of the two methods, and it's also the simplest. You can just use this with a little bit of glue, weighing it down for a few days. The other method that's a bit more expensive is using something called Vivafilm. Now, this is something that you buy in a roll, like this. This is the roll that I buy from Talus in Brooklyn. This is a heat activated glue, so it doesn't dry, but it activates with heat and then it cools down and it sets. This is a bit more of an expensive way to do it, and there are two ways to go about it. One of the ways is by using heated dry mount press. This thing heats up to 180 degrees at a minimum, and then you close it down, you add some pressure to it. That heats up this glue. It also squeezes it, applies the pressure. This thing I bought off of Craigslist for $80. I don't know what the new ones cost, but I've had this for years and it is built like a tank and it works like a charm. The reason I'm mounting all these paintings today is because of a little holiday studio sale that I'm organizing. These paintings are going to be available on my website, and I'm preparing to sell and ship them off. So the first thing I need to do is mount them. These panels that I am mounting my paintings on are gatorfoam 3/16. Gatorfoam is a rigid foam board. This is not the same thing as your regular foam board that you might buy at Blick. I buy these from, I think it's Artist Supply. All right, so what I'm starting with right now, I have my paintings. Make sure it's fired on. That's a simple on-off switch. To start with the simplest method of all, just using PVA. I take my PVA, my Line Co neutral pH adhesive, and I just pour it out pretty liberally. I take my foam roller and then I roll it out, fully covering the surface. I need a little bit more. It's surprising how much PVA you might actually need to really saturate it. And then the other thing I'm doing at this step, because I'm saving the cleanup of needing a pan, is I'm fully saturating my roller as I'm rolling it out. Look at the glare to see if I missed any spots. I can tell that there's a little spot over here that's a little uneven that I missed. All right, that's fully covered with PVA. Now I will grab my painting, turn it on its backside. I'm gonna just saturate my foam roller a little bit more, get all that in my foam roller. From my foam roller, that will go on the back of the painting. I'm using this wooden block because this wooden block lets me go a little bit over the edges. Rolling it out corner to corner, making sure all of it gets covered. Using some pressure to get that PVA out. Careful to not get too much glue on my hands because that's going to be really annoying. Now that's fully saturated, I will take the painting, take the PVA coated gator foam, and working one side, closely, carefully line it up. PVA sort of sticks to itself, and it's a much better bond than just using a single layer. I'm trying to make sure that the corners line up and that rolling this down, it's not crooked. So it looks like it's sort of good enough. And now with my hands, I'm gonna slide it out. Overall, it's pretty good. Now, at this point, there are two options. You could either just take this painting and stick it under some weight. Let it dry for a few days. I have this heavy textbook kind of thing, Landscape Painting History. It was a great gift from a good friend, but it's a very big, heavy book, and that's what I usually dry my paintings under. The other step, which is somewhat optional, but it helps with preventing air bubbles. It helps with making sure that the PVA really gets adhered. The other step is to stick it under this dry mount press, this heated press that applies pressure and heat. And so I'm gonna stick it under here for half a minute. Bring that down, take my timer, put it on for 26 seconds. You really don't need that much heat, especially with PVA. It's mostly the pressure that's gonna help, but a little bit of heat, for whatever reason, it really works. I've had other paintings in the past which I've tried mounting with just PVA, and I've had air bubbles form. Also, I generally don't mount very large paintings with either of these methods. I just stretch because it's so much simpler. So that's half a minute. That's pretty good. We take our painting out. Nice and flat, very nice and flat. And so now I take that and I put it underneath my textbook. So now that's one painting. Now this is a second painting that I'm going to be applying. This is a painting of a little monument in Florence. This is one of my highlights of the sale. The way it works, I have it on my website. Priority access is for those that sign up to my collector's mailing list. So if you want to sign up for the collector's mailing list, you can, and I also have my workshop mailing list right next to that. Either of those interest you guys. Next step, and this is really easy. So now this little Biva film, how this works is one of these films, this is a Mylar with a silicone coating on one side, and this is just paper with the silicone coating. The glue is actually on the clear Mylar. It's on the inside of it. So I spread it out. You can tell that one side looks a little bit matte. I put it down. I cover my Biva film. I'll set it so that two edges are clean, because if these two edges are clean, it's going to be much easier to take off the Mylar, and the glue is going to stick to the gator foam. Make sure it's all nicely covered. Let it cook for about 15 seconds. This piece that I left, I keep these pieces because there's a non-stick coating on this, and that non-stick coating is really helpful when gluing my paintings. And so I keep this for myself. I have a little pile of them. Now, that looks, ooh, it almost looks good. It looks like it needs a bit more time. It's difficult to see, but I could tell that the glue hasn't entirely stuck to the gator foam yet. They look like air bubbles or discolored little splotches, so I'm gonna let it cook for maybe another 15 seconds. Sometimes you can also do is you can mount the back of these with second layer of Biva, and that way having two films, one on the panel, one on the back of the linen, creates an even stronger adhesion. That's what I've done when I've had very large paintings I've wanted to mount. This painting over here in my studio, it's a painting from France. It's a big one. Now I look at it, okay, it looks really, really clean. I'll take my X-Acto knife, cut the edges off because I don't need the edges. But ideally, you have a slightly larger piece of Biva film to make sure that it's just a really clean cover, right? So now it's fully covered, and now I can just peel the Mylar off. Right here, it's coming off. You can see. Now, one of these pieces is actually non-stick and one isn't. One of the ways you can tell that is by using a little bit of tape. It's also the non-stick is helpful to have that for the painting surface once it's weighted. With a little piece of tape, you can test the tape doesn't stick on the one side where the Biva film was. The tape does stick on the other side. See, That's an easy way to figure out what's the non-stick side. So now I have a nice layer of Biva on this. I take my painting, I line it up really carefully. This is a much easier process than the PVA. I'm gonna use this with the non-stick side. You can see that this side also doesn't stick on this paper. I'm gonna use that to fully cover this painting. And I'm gonna set it under there and then let it cook for half a minute or so. Using this Biva film, and this dry mount press, it's the easiest way for me to mount my panels and to make panels. This cost about 80 bucks on Craigslist. If you can find them locally on Craigslist, on Facebook Marketplace, great. Brand new, they're probably a few $100s if I were to have to guess. This Biva film for a 27-inch by 20-yard roll, that was also about $120. When you break it down into 9 by 12 panels, it's not a whole lot of cost of gluing per panel. Then at the end of it, that comes out, and there's the finished painting. So here's the finished painting. It's nice and glued. I'm gonna set this under weight now to let it cool down. We can see how's the painting with PVA doing. The painting with PVA is also doing pretty good. I'll just put this one right on top of it. And then back goes the weight. Now, the first time I ever tried using Biva film, what happened was I tried using just a tacking iron. And this is something I would not recommend. So a tacking iron is something like this. Particular brand just really sucked. My personal experience was having a painting that I was trying to heat up and iron out the entire way with just this tacking iron was such a headache. It caused me so many air bubbles. I ended up having a conservator friend come and bail me out. This thing sucked. I don't recommend using Biva film for this. If you can find one of these, it's heavy, it takes up space in the studio, but it is amazing. It's what a lot of the premier brands that sell linen panels, it's what they use to mount their linen onto panels, whether that's gatorfoam panels or ACM. Most of them use Biva 371. And if you want to just use PVA, that is the easiest thing to do. You don't need this to make PVA panels. It's certainly a little bit helpful, but otherwise you could just use PVA and then dry them down with a little bit of weight. Make sure that you don't get any air bubbles, and it's as easy as that. So thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and got something useful out of it. Now you guys know how to mount paintings or how to make your own high quality linen panels. I'm gonna get to mounting the rest of these paintings. I have a few workshop demos. I have other paintings from Florence of the Duomo or San Michele. So all these paintings are going to be available in my upcoming holiday studio sale. It's happening in 2 weeks, the weekend of December 8th, 9th, and 10th, I believe, that Friday to Sunday. Subscribers to my mailing list get first dibs. And if you guys don't know, I also have a Patreon where I do painting-specific tutorials focused on plein air. I have some videos of painting in Venice, painting seascapes, painting foliage. Check out my Patreon for some oil painting tutorials if you guys are interested in that. And also the mailing list for in-person workshops, because I'm also organizing some of those. Thanks for watching. Till next time.